friends, welcome to this episode of Yarnyheart Fiber Art. My name is Jess. You can find me on Instagram at yarnyheart, and this is the show where I talk about all the yarny things that I've been up to. Happy May. Hopefully you are actually watching this video in May, and if you are not, just know that I filmed this in May. Gosh. Yeah, it's been a while. I feel like the last couple of podcasts has started out with me talking about how it's been a while. And you may or may not remember, as this was such a long time ago, but there was a time, once upon a time, where the Yarnyheart Fiber Art podcast uploaded every 2 weeks like clockwork. But I think let's just abandon all pretense of that schedule for now. And I just want to say it's so nice to see you again, and it's so nice to be chatting on camera and to be completely transparent, completely transparent. Most of the reason why I am filming this podcast right now is because I have all of this yarn from the yarn crawl, and I really want to clear it off of there. And yeah, I said the yarn crawl, it has indeed been sitting there for like 2 months, since March. So I'd really like to clear it off now. So I would really like to talk about all of my yarn acquisitions from the yarn crawl and beyond, because believe it or not, despite the outrageous amount of yarn that I purchased on the yarn crawl, I do also have other acquisitions that were not part of the yarn crawl. So it's been very busy here behind the camera here at Yarnyheart Fiber Art, and I really hope that I don't overheat while wearing this sweater. I do have my air conditioning on, so you might hear it kick on and off over the course of the video. But it is, luckily it's not as hot today as it was yesterday, but it is starting to ramp up towards summer. But I'm glad that I was able to quickly throw on this sweater to show off. But yeah. So I have this sweater. I have a couple of crazy projects that have been started and finished completely offline, and a lot of other fun things to share with you. So if that sounds like fun, grab something to knit on or whatever yarny craft you've got. Sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with my first finished object, this is my Alvar pullover. I think it's called the Alvar pullover. It's called Alvar something, but this is by Sari Nordland. I did show progress on this in my previous podcast episode several months ago, and it has been finished. I think I finished this I'm pretty sure I finished this in April, so last month. But here it is, never before been seen. And if you recall, this is the sweater that I was knitting out of a mascara flake in my eye. Oh, it was a whole ass eyelash. What was I saying? So as you might recall, this was the sweater that I was knitting out of a desire for like a very oversized, like kind of textured, kind of like slouchy sweater, and this is the sweater that came out of that. I had reported previously that I was making some modifications to this pattern. In particular, I was adding more width to the armhole, or like depth, more armhole depth. I was doing that. Just kind of knowing that Sari Nordland patterns do tend to have a bit of a tighter sleeve circumference. That is one of my regrets. I feel like I should have just knitted this to pattern, because looking at the sleeve circumference measurements in the pattern, it probably would have been fine. And this was a straight sleeve as written. It didn't decrease at all like a lot of her patterns do, so I think I would have been fine. But regardless, I did increase the armhole depth. And I ended up, part of the reason why I regret this is I ended up increasing it quite a lot. And in hindsight, I don't know why I didn't think about this when I first picked up the sleeves, but when I picked up the sleeves, I was like, ooh, this is quite large, but oh well, I don't think I have a choice other than to just like pick it up and knit it. But in hindsight, I totally could have just like seamed up the side a little bit and then picked up with, anyway, whatever. It's, what's done is done. I am very happy with this. I've been wearing it a lot before the weather started getting warm. I also recently came back from a trip up to Washington for work, which I'll talk about in a little bit because I did pick up some yarn there as well. But when I was up in Washington, it was unseasonably warm for the first couple of days that I was there, but on the last day coming back, it was typical Washington, sorry, let me clarify, Washington State, not Washington, D.C. But by the time I left, it was like pretty typical Washington State weather, where it was in like the low 60s. So I had this sweater on for the last day of my trip, and I've just been kind of throwing this on pretty much any day that has been cool enough for a sweater. We're still kind of in that yo-yo season where we'll get like super hot days, but then we'll get like super cold days every once in a while. And I feel like we're gonna get a couple more yo-yo weeks before we start like being completely steadily into summer. So hopefully I get a couple more opportunities to wear this sweater before we're in full swing summer. I feel us getting there soon. I don't think we're quite there yet. We might see another dip. But yeah, so loving this sweater, loving this pattern, loving this yarn. So the yarn I picked up while I was in Korea last year from a store called Somsom Knit. And this yarn is called New Bottom. And it's in the color Rust. And this is equivalent to a DK weight here in the US. They don't use the same weight system in Korea that we do, but more or less it's equivalent to a DK weight. And it is 90% Tasmania wool and 10% cashmere. So it's very soft, super squishy. It is, yeah, it's really soft. Like I wear this, I love this sweater so much that I could wear it as homewear because wearing it honestly just feels like a really warm hug. I love this sweater so much. As far as pilling, because I have been wearing this quite a bit, it is pilling a little bit, but not significantly. Like in my previous podcast episode, I was wearing my Sasky pullover that was knitted also with a 10% cashmere blend, but that one was Capretta from Knit Picks. That sweater pilled so much. Like after knitting that podcast episode, it was already all pilled, like under the arm, on the sleeves, or on the chest area. It was pilled a lot. And then don't even get me started. The first time I wore it out, it pilled so much more. It was like almost unwearable, to the point that I actually bought a fabric shaver. My Sasky sweater pilled so much that I bought a fabric shaver just to salvage the garment. And like it calmed, I think by now it has finally calmed down, but it took several instances. It took probably 3 different times of wearing it, bringing it home, de-pilling it, and then just doing that, like rinse and repeat, probably about 3 times before it kind of chilled out. And I think now it's finally okay. Like it had a really significant initial pilling, which was kind of crazy. I had never experienced that before. So just a fair warning for that if you decide to use Capretta in a garment. It was a very soft yarn and it still feels really nice. But I'm wondering if it might be better served paired with a mohair or something like that to help prevent some of that pilling. Or if not, just be prepared for that to happen. I'm getting off topic. The whole point of that is after dealing with that pilling nightmare, this is nothing in comparison. It's pilling a little bit, but I've also really put this sweater through like some extreme stress tests, because on the day that I wore this in Washington, that was my return day, I was stuck in the airport for 8 hours. So I was wearing this sweater the whole time. So this, I feel like if anything, that was kind of an intense stress test to put this sweater through. But it did fine. It held up really well, and it was super comfy, and it kept me cozy during that whole time that I was stuck in SeaTac. So yeah, no complaints. The only thing is I do wish I had been able to knit this sweater a little bit longer. I'm gonna see if you can't see it that well. But while I'm up here, I'll just kind of show off some of the textures here. I really love the way that the texture came out, and particularly paired with this yarn combo. This yarn, I would say, it doesn't have amazing stitch definition, but with this texture, it kind of really sings because it kind of makes it understated a little bit, but like on purpose. Oh yeah, look at that sleeve detail. So pretty. And of course, with my autumn palette, I'm a huge fan of this like rusty pumpkin color. Yeah, so been really enjoying this. Yeah, so like I was saying, I did run out of, like, I would have knit this longer if I could have. But I think just having these enormous sleeves like gobbled up a lot of yarn for me, which it's okay. I can still wear this with leggings and it feels fine wearing it with leggings. One thing that I did sacrifice in the name of length though is this was supposed to have a folded over neckband, but I omitted that. I just knitted it single to save on yarn. And I didn't even knit it halfway, I don't think. Part of it also was that actually now I can't recall if the pattern actually calls for an Italian bind off or not, but I wanted to do an Italian bind off just because I like the look of it. By the way, binding this off, because this hemline is like really big, this took forever, but I still would say it's worth it. I'm just such a big fan of an Italian bind off. It looks so professional and really clean. Yeah, all that to say for the neckband, it was supposed to be a fold over neckband. Didn't do that, knitted it probably a quarter of the length I was supposed to. Because, you know, folded over neckband, you knit it double the length, you fold it down, but I probably knitted it half of that half. So very small, but I was able to do an Italian bind off for the neckband, so it does still look really nice and professional. Yeah, not much else to say. I love this sweater. It is going to be, I think it's going to be my go-to for years just because it's so easy to just throw on, and it looks stunning, to be honest, just because of like the sheer scale of this project. This is definitely a new favorite of mine. I know I say that after like every sweater finished object, I feel like, but this is taking a place in the Hall of Fame for me, and I'm really, really happy with the way this turned out. I would love to work with this yarn again, honestly. My boyfriend and I are making like vague plans to maybe go back to Korea this year in the winter time, like around December. And if that happens, I'm definitely going to be buying more yarn, which is crazy because I know I'm about to show you so much yarn that I just bought, but that's at the end of the year, you know, like I'll have worked through a whole lot of this by that time. So, I mean, you can never have too much yarn. Yarn doesn't expire, okay? That's all I have to say in my defense is there's no expiration date on yarn. Yep. So, long-winded intro, but this is my Alvar pullover by Sarn Yardland. My next finished object is one that I posted on Instagram, but it happened very quickly because it was part of a test knit, and so I didn't really get a chance to talk much about it elsewhere or otherwise, but this is my Vita Cami, which was a test knit for Life is Cozy. Otherwise, or her real name is Ksenia Naidian, but her handle on all the different platforms is Life is Cozy. So this was a test knit that I did for her, and it is a camisole. It's a summer camisole, and it's made with these like chevrons. It's knitted up in a DK weight. And the original does have like a 2-color stripe, like not 2 colors, kind of like a 2 material stripe, because they're both white and they're both from Seismic Yarns, which is the local dyer here in Daly City. But I think it's 2 different bases or something like that, but it's the same color on 2 different bases, and that's what the original sample is in. But with this pattern, Ksenia is really encouraging people to like get creative with the colors and stuff like that, or even use it as a scrap buster, and so I ended up using mine as a scrap buster. I don't know why it looks like so huge in the camera, but I swear it fits me perfectly. Yeah. So this was a scrap buster where I used a whole bunch of like different summer yarns that I had in different amounts, and like I did not necessarily use them all at like a DK gauge, but because of the nature of the project, it all kind of ended up working out okay anyway. So if you look closely here, you can see like remnants of so many of my different projects throughout like the past couple of years. This coral color, which is featured prominently, this predates the podcast. This is from a self-drafted pattern that I did, I think even pre-COVID. I think I was an undergrad when I did that. But this is a now discontinued Barocco yarn called, I think it was Weekend DK. But it's a acrylic cotton blend, I believe. I don't have the yarn label anymore. I literally had to go on Ravelry under the yarn section under Barocco and try and see like which yarn it was, because the yarn label is gone. It's in a landfill somewhere probably, but yeah, but so the coral yarn is from that long ago, but everything else on here I think you can recognize from different projects that I've done. So this is the cotton from my, oh my god, what is the name of, the Tolsta tea, that's what it's called. So this pale yellow is from my Tolsta tea. This green is from my Goodfellow top. This yellow is from my Vilma top that I finished recently. The brown is from my dumpling bag. The white is from my oolong tank. This is really fun. I didn't expect to actually do this in my podcast, but now that I think about it, you've all seen most of these projects. So this is real cute. So yeah, so this white is from my oolong tank. It's the coral again from before the podcast, and then the same yellow from the Vilma top. This dark green is from my Anjou tank. This was the green that I used. This is so knitting for all of cotton merino. And then I think the rest of them are just repeats of the same colors. Yeah. So this was very fun. I haven't really done a large scrap buster project before. I think the closest that I've gotten is at my parents' house. There is an eternally work in progress like granny square blanket there. That is so much of my yarn scraps from before the podcast, or like from when I first was learning how to knit and crochet. So it's a whole lot of like big box acrylic yarn and stuff like that, but it's a blanket I feel like that will never be finished, and it's literally just like my tiny little yarn scraps from random projects here and there back when I was using yarn that didn't cost very much, if you know what I mean. So aside from that, this is really my first time doing like a real scrap buster project, and I think it's really fun and cute, and like it makes me excited to do some more scrap busters once I accumulate another significant amount of yarn scraps. Like particularly right now, I have a ton of like fingering weight sock yarn scraps, and I need to figure out something to do with those. But I'm really fortunate that I was at a point with my like DK sport weight scraps that I had enough to really make something cool out of them. So here we go. It's my Vita cami. This one is a really fun construction. It's a fiddly cast on, but it's really pretty. So it makes like a mini picot edge at the top. And it's a really long cast on because you make these chevrons with like increases and decreases. So really you're knitting the circumference of like the entire slopes of these triangles. And then you knit until you have your desired length, and then you fill in the bottom triangles with short rows essentially. And then you just pick up, the hemline at the bottom and knit ribbing down, and then you come back and you do, I think this is technically double knitting for the straps, but you just pick up stitches and then you're kind of doing like a slip stitch pattern for the straps, and it's real cute. Yeah, so thank you, Ksenia, for the opportunity to test knit. I haven't test knitted in a long time, and it's partially because like the deadlines kind of give me anxiety, but I was really excited to do this test knit. I feel like I kind of had cast on fever at the moment, So this really scratched the itch, and I did finish it in time for my Washington trip, and so that was kind of her like first real outing. So I have pictures of that on Instagram, and that was kind of like what I posted as my pictures for the test knit as well. Yeah, so that's my Vita Cami. I have another finished object. It's a small one, so actually that's another reason why I wanted to do this podcast like right now today, is because this one is going away very soon. I'm giving it away, so I wanted to squeeze this in before that happens. So my cousin recently, gosh, so a year ago my cousin had a baby, and this is kind of like my first nephew, and his first birthday party is this coming weekend. And in Korean culture, first birthday parties are a really big deal. It's called a torjanchi. And it's just kind of like a really big, it's a big deal. It's a big celebration. There are lots of customs, and one that is very famous at a torjanchi is what's called torjabi, which like the parents will put out different like things on a mat to represent like different outcomes of the baby's future, and then they stick this little 1-year-old baby on the mat, and whichever one they grab first is like what their future is going to be. So I know the traditional ones are like money, so that they'll be rich. There's like a ball of string to have long life. There are other ones too. I think there might have been like food or something like that, but like they've certainly modernized like the choices, and now a lot of times it's more so about like what profession the baby's going to be. So like we'll have like a toy stethoscope on there for like a doctor, or they'll have like a computer, like a keyboard or something for like computer science or something like that. So there've been different iterations of it, but all that to say, the tour is a really big deal. And my nephew's tour is coming up this weekend, and today's Thursday, so this is kind of like my only chance to film this podcast before I need to wrap up this gift to send it. But they're big Golden State Warriors people, so I decided to knit a hat that is Golden State Warriors colors. The grandpa is a former Golden State Warrior and also former radio announcer for the Warriors, and so even though they're already out of the playoffs and well, they're not really doing so hot lately, I think this family is in it for life when it comes to the Warriors, so I think this is a safe color combination choice. But it's so cute. So I knitted the toddler size. I tend to like to do that for 1-year-old gifts, because this is also pre-podcast, I believe, but I also knitted a vest for my younger cousin for her torjanchi a couple years ago, and I knitted that one also in kind of like more of a toddler size, because I wanted her to be able to grow into it a little bit, because like little kids grow up so fast that, because I did an infant knit for another younger cousin of mine, and she grew out of it so quickly that I'm like, okay, from now on, no more newborn gifts. I'm only doing 1-year-old gifts from now on. Personal rule of mine now. Just because they, at that point, you know, like they're growing slightly slower. They're not going to outgrow it so fast. So I knitted a toddler size. So this will probably be a little bit big for him now, but the intent is for him to be able to grow into it and still be able to wear it for quite a while afterwards. So this will probably last him from like maybe 2.5 to hopefully like even 5 years old. And he'll just be able to grow into it, but it's got a really stretchy brim too, which is nice. Yeah, and so the yarns I used for this are, the blue is, I just had the yarn label, what did I do with it? Okay, so the blue is Plymouth Yarn Dream Baby DK. What is the color? Oh, it doesn't really have a color name. Does it? No. Yeah, so Plymouth Yarns Dream Baby DK. This is 50% acrylic and 50% nylon, so basically acrylic. But then the yellow color is, I know I really like splurged on this one, but the yellow color is Illimani Sabri 1, which is 50% alpaca, 50% cotton. Illimani Sabri is what I used for my cousin's vest also, and it went really well. Marsha at Busy Sticks, that was actually the first time that I ever went to Busy Sticks, was to buy that yarn for my cousin's vest. But when I was there, Marsha had advised me that the Illimani Sabri is actually pretty good for baby gifts because it is soft and it is also machine washable. So it's kind of a step up from your typical like baby acrylic. So yeah, since I used it for her vest, and since it has gone really well, like feedback from my auntie basically, you know, like it's hard wearing, it's not necessarily delicate. And I don't have much, I would never use this blue ever again, like in my life. So I was fine taking the L and just buying a $6 skein of the blue. But for the yellow, I knew that I wouldn't use that much of it because I pretty much used it the entire blue skein. But I knew that I wouldn't use that much of the yellow, and I certainly would have more of a use for the yellow. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna splurge a little bit and keep some for myself to do something with later, because Illimani Sabri, I love the yarn. It's a beautiful yarn to work with, so I could easily see myself picking it up in either the same color or a different color and making something for myself later down the line. And maybe using like the yellow as an accent color or something. I don't know, but it's great. Yeah, so this is how much I have left of the Illimani Sabri. It's almost a full skein, especially because these come in, I think this is a 100-gram skein, not a 50. So I have plenty left to do something with. But yeah, this is how it turned out. It's got a cute little pom-pom. I did use a pattern for this. Originally, I wasn't planning on using a pattern for this, just because like it's a pretty standard. I mean, I know how to make a hat, and it's all stockinette with just some stripes. I can certainly do that. So I wasn't planning on using a pattern, but I was trying to find a free baby hat pattern just so that I could kind of get the measurements, or like get the stitch counts for the initial cast on, and then I was planning on just improvising the rest of it. But I ended up finding actually a really good hat pattern that was exactly what I wanted, and it was free, so I just ended up using that pattern. So this is a free pattern called Grandma's Baby Hat Pattern, very generic, but this is by Towering Knits. I will cast it, oh my god, like I haven't done a podcast in so long, I don't even know how to speak anymore. I will put the link down in the description to this pattern. But yeah, free pattern, really good free pattern. And it has sizes, I think it has sizes from preemie to toddler. So it has a pretty wide range of sizes. And yeah, great pattern, love it. And this, oh yeah, these little handmade tags. So these are just from Amazon, I'm pretty sure. But it's just a little tag on there where you can put the washing instructions, and have it really easy for the giftee to read. And then also, Marsha was handing these out during the yarn crawl, but I have sewn on this little handmade charm on there. I just thought it was cute for a baby knit. Can it please focus? There we go. There we go. So I put on this cute little handmade charm. I thought it was cute for a baby gift because like a little handprint, you know. So that's my Warriors hat. Go Dubs. We'll get them next year. I don't know if we'll actually get them next year. We haven't been doing so great. This is your reminder to drink water. So that's it for finished objects, which 3 finished objects is kind of pretty good. That's pretty good. I haven't seen you in I think 2 months. So that's pretty decent, I would say. So moving on to whips. I only have one whip that is carried over from last time, and I'm kind of embarrassed about it, to be honest, because I think I talked to you in, what am I talking about, 2 months? It hasn't been 2 months. I last recorded in February, but I posted in March, so I guess it's kind of been 2 months. But either way, I am kind of embarrassed about this one. I'm still working on my Ryan sweater that was originally supposed to be a birthday gift from my mother in April. We're still going. I was gonna say I'm almost done, but I still have some to go. But I have done the back piece. Ta-da! And I have done the 2 sleeves, and I just casted on the front piece like 2 days ago. So I'm not really proud of the progress that I've made necessarily. But we'll get there. Part of it is because I did have to put this project on pause specifically to pump out that baby hat, which my mom, because this baby is now her grandnephew, my mom was totally like, no, like prioritize his hat. My sweater can come whenever. So yeah. So this is the back piece. This is probably where you'll see the pattern the best. I don't really have many more crazy updates on this other than that it's just kind of going along, and it's kind of a slow and arduous process because, as you can see, it's very intricately detailed. There's just a lot going on. There's lace panels, there's cables, there's faux cables, there's just a lot happening, and it's taking a while. That's it. There's just a lot happening, and it's taking a while. But yeah, I feel completely candidly, because my mom doesn't watch this podcast, I love her to pieces, and I would happily knit a sweater for her, any sweater for her. But I'm so ready to be done with this dang sweater. Guys, seriously, it's taking forever. And it's like, it's certainly not my first piece that's been knitted in pieces and seamed. It's not my first piece with lace work or anything. But I think it is the first time that I'm doing all of these things, but also in a fingering weight gauge. And I think I'm speaking this into existence right now. I think this will be the last time that I do something like this in a fingering weight gauge specifically. Like if this was in like a worsted, even a DK, even a sport weight, it wouldn't be as painful as it is. But because it's in a fingering weight, it's just taking forever. It is seriously just taking freaking forever, and it's driving me insane. So one of these sleeves, though, I did get done almost completely during my Washington trip, which was only a couple of days, but I was kind of obsessively knitting on it. And like I said, I was also stuck in the airport for 8 hours. So, yeah, so the sleeves went kind of fine. Yeah, that's another thing. Usually with something like this, you would knit the back, the front, and then the sleeves, right? I knew that I would dread doing the sleeves. I would feel like they were taking forever. So I did the sleeves first, but now I'm kind of regretting that because now I'm dreading doing the front panel. So you know, we talked about Sleeve Island. I think it is less about Sleeve Island, and I think it's more about by the time you're done with a sweater like this, you're just ready to be done, because I'm ready to be done. I'm so ready to be done. So here's the 2 sleeves. They look very small right now, but I steam blocked these, but you know, I think they will definitely open up a lot more with a full wet block. I pretty much just steam blocked them so they don't look so curled up and ugly, but they are still curled quite a bit. So yeah, so here's the 2 sleeves, and I showed off the back panel already. So here is what I have so far of the front. I'm still on the ribbing part. I think this is also part of what's killing my motivation, is the ribbing is so long, and it's like on the tiniest needle imaginable, and it takes forever because there's also cables in the ribbing part, so it's just 1 by 1 rib plus cables, which is excruciating. But I mean, alas, whatever. I think it will turn out very beautiful once it's done, but right now I'm in the phase of like, why am I doing this? I have such cast on fever right now. Like I've been browsing Ravelry non-stop, and especially with all this new yarn that I want to play with, I have such cast on fever, but I am controlling my impulses and trying to funnel all of that cast on fever into into an urge to finish this right now so that I can cast on more stuff. So hopefully that'll make me knit faster. I don't know. But yeah, so the yarn that I'm using is also from Korea. It's also from that same store, Somsom Knit. But this yarn is called Pubir, and I still don't know if that is supposed to be, like, I don't know what that means, actually. Like, I don't know if it actually means anything. I put it into Google Translate, and all it told me was Pubir, so I don't know. But this is, this yarn is called Pubir, and it is in the color Dark Wine. And this is 70% Tasmania wool and 30% baby alpaca. It is a little rough to the feel, like just to the touch, but from experience, because I wet blocked my swatch for this project, and the swatch is really soft. And in the store, my mom picked this yarn because the swatch in the store was really soft, and I assume they're blocking their swatches in the store. So it's a little rough, a little rustic to the touch right now, but judging from the swatches that I've felt after blocking, I feel like it will soften up a lot after blocking, so I am looking forward to that. I think that's also part of what's giving me, I feel like that's part of what's giving me fatigue about this project too, is the fact that working with it, the yarn is pretty rustic, so it's kind of like, it's leaving lint on me, it's not so soft on the hands. It's also at such a small gauge that it's also pretty hard on the hands, and I'm so ready to be done. I'm so ready to be done with this sweater. I'm gonna have a lot of yarn left though, because I expected to use like half on the front part and half on the back part, but I did the back and both sleeves with one single coat of yarn. So this, I only have to do the front with this amount of yarn, so I'm gonna have quite a lot left over. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. It is a fingering weight-ish. Like I mentioned previously, in Korea they don't really use yarn weights like they do here, but it is equivalent-ish, like a fingering weight. I'm sure I can find something to do with it, or even pair it with some other stuff for a scrap project later. But goodness gracious, I'm so over it. I'm so over it, you guys. Ready to be done. I didn't even mention the sweater that I'm knitting. This pattern is called Ryan by Marie Wallen. It's a fine enough pattern. It's just so tedious at this point, and more than anything, it's the fingering weight gauge and the knitting flat. Because I feel like even if this was in the round somehow, I wouldn't have as much fatigue with it. But it's the fact that it is knitting flat, it's all of the intricacy of like the cables, the lace on every single row. It's just making knitting this such a slog. And I think also I'm dreading having to seam this afterwards, but on the other hand, it's taken me so long to knit these pieces that I'm looking forward to the seaming, because in comparison, it should take like no time at all to seam and weave in the ends. I feel like that should be such a red flag, right? Like the pattern is so freaking tedious that I'm looking forward to the seaming and weaving in ends. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what does that mean? What is happening? That's such a red flag for a pattern. So I would not personally recommend embarking on this journey that I did. But I only have one piece to go, and I plan on knitting this monogamously until it's done, because I want to be done, because I want to play with the yarn that I have been staring at on my table since March. I want to play with it. I want to play with it now. So I'm just gonna try and get this off the needles and be done. One thing also, I feel like this might be the last sweater that I gift knit for somebody, and it's not even that my mom is, it's not that my mom is not knittable, or like that my mom is not knit worthy. That's the word I was looking for. It's not that my mom isn't knit worthy, she's definitely knit worthy, but I think for me, having the deadline of her birthday, passing that deadline, and then feeling the anxiety and guilt of having passed the deadline but still working on this, it's too much. It's too much. I think in the future, like, I have nothing against gift knitting for people, but I think in the future, because if you remember a couple years ago, I knitted all of my Christmas gifts, but that was because I was poor. I knitted all my Christmas gifts, but that was because I genuinely yarn was cheaper than Christmas gifts in that situation, because I could buy a skein of yarn for like $10 to $15 and then make something really nice out of it, and that was easy. Well, not easy, but it was the better choice. But it was extremely stressful, and I did feel gate kept from things that I wanted to do. And I didn't feel like I was on my own timetable, and that's how I feel with this project as well, especially having passed the deadline like a month ago. I certainly feel the guilt and stress of having passed it. And I feel guilty working on things that are not this project because I'm past my deadline. So it's not that I'm against knitting gifts for people. I have zero qualms with knitting gifts for people. In fact, I love the process of knitting so much, but I can't possibly wear all of this stuff. And sometimes I want to knit something that's not necessarily my personal style. So I'll knit gifts for people all day long. But I think this might be the very last time that I knit a gift for somebody with a specific timeline. The deadline is it's too much, and that's also why I don't typically enjoy test knitting. This was an exception. I don't know, I went crazy and I wanted to test knit something, but even then I didn't feel resentful towards the process by the end of it. But I feel like gift knitting in the future, I just want to do it on my own schedule, not for any occasion, just sincerely as I love and care about you. I want you to have nice things, and I knitted this for you just because I care about you, not for any specific occasion or event or anything like that. Like, I'm not doing a birthday knit ever again, and I don't think I can escape doing a Christmas knit at some point in the future, but I want to keep it to a minimum, I think. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on gift knitting. My other work in progress, which is a new cast on. I know I just said I want to knit on this monogamously, but I do have a new cast. Justification for this was because I went down to so right after coming back from Washington, I was home for one day, and then I had a planned trip to San Diego with my family, and they wanted to drive. And well, I enjoy knitting in the car. I do get car sick unless I have headphones in, but I can knit if I have headphones on. But even still, like, I can't knit anything like really complex necessarily. Like, stockinette projects are awesome, and then I can probably do something like very slightly more complicated than just a stockinette, like a very simple lace pattern. And so this was out of the question for the road trip. I did bring the hat, and that is actually what I knitted on for most of the time that I was there, but I had a feeling that I was going to finish the hat before the end of the trip, because it was about 9 hours, which it could have taken 7. I told my mom, no, it's going to be 9 hours, and she said, no, it's going to be 7 hours. And I said, we're driving through LA. Like, we have to pass through LA no matter what. It's gonna take 9 hours. And I was right, it took 9 hours. So over those 9 hours, I had a feeling that I would finish the hat, and so I wanted to bring a backup project that I could work on that was simple, just knowing that I would probably finish the hat already. So I brought another skein of yarn, and I cast it on a project that I have been planning to knit for quite a while at this point, and that is the Darling Vest by Quilshare Knit. So Quilshare is another yarn tuber. Copywriting that, by the way, yarn tuber. So Quilshare is another yarn tuber. She's based out of Korea. She typically does knitting vlogs where she'll vlog the process of making one project. But over the past year or so, maybe, she has also branched out into designing her own patterns, and I think this is the second pattern that she has designed. So this is the Darling Vest. And this is a fun one because I am using the exact same yarn that she used in her original samples, and I bought it from the same store in Korea that she bought her yarn from for her samples, and that is Paner Iyagi, which is a yarn brand, but then their flagship store in Korea also has a cafe on the second level. You've probably seen it on Instagram. I'm pretty sure that I posted pictures and videos of it in my yarn shopping in Korea video from a while ago. Yeah, so I bought the yarn from there. And it's going good. So I already have the first set of diamonds done. So these diamonds, I think there's 3 of them, 2 or 3 of them before I split for sleeves. And so I'm already making pretty good progress, and it's a vest, so it should go pretty quickly after this. So it's knitted bottom up in pieces and then seamed. And then there's a little slit at the bottom, and then you just kind of knit an additional little border for the slit part. I do feel like after this I don't want to knit anything flat for a very long time if I can help it. I'm so tired of knitting flat. I just want to knit something, because like this is very simple. This is a very simple pattern. It has really simple lace for the diamonds, and there is a cable, but it's only every other row, and it's just a very simple cable like that. So this is not a complicated pattern by any means, but I think after this, and particularly after this project, I am craving so badly. I'm craving just a straight up all over stockinette pattern, which is so insane for me to say, because if you've been around here for any amount of time, you know that I'm not really an all stockinette kind of gal. It has to have something else to it, something going on. I think the only project that I knitted that was all stockinette was my Tolsta tee last summer. And even that, I think it was more so the yarn choice though than the actual stockinette of it. But even that, I was like, I'm kind of struggling. I'm bored, you know? So it is so insane for me to say that I'm craving an all stockinette project, but I am craving an all stockinette project despite all odds. Yeah, so that might be what's up next on the docket after this. I do have a sweater quantity that I'm eyeing some patterns for an all stockinette because it is a variegated sock yarn and then a single tone like fuzzy lace yarn. So that could be an all stockinette project. And then some of the stuff that I got at the yarn crawl, I'm also eyeing for maybe some stuff that's all stockinette. We shall see. So, yep. Oh, the yarn. This is, what's it called? This is King Cole Subtle Drifter, and I believe it is a blend of acrylic, wool, and cotton, but I don't remember the percentages right off the top of my head. And my yarn ball is all the way on the other side of my apartment, and I don't want to get up and get it. So you're just gonna have to trust me. It's acrylic, wool, and cotton in some amounts, but it's really soft. Like, I really don't feel the acrylic whatsoever. It feels more like a cotton. Yeah, it doesn't really feel acrylic-y, but it's very soft, and it's really interesting because the strand itself, it has a little bit of like almost like a springiness to it. Like, it almost feels like it's kind of elastic in a way, but it's really not. I'm gonna try and, so you can kind of see there's like a lot of stretch just to the individual strand, and it's almost a little slubby, just very slightly, but it's really pretty, and I really like the way that it's heathered. It's kind of like this oatmeal color. I think the colorway might actually be called oatmeal or something like that, but it is kind of like this oatmeal-y color, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm super excited to have this as like a layering piece because it's also pretty lightweight because there's not a whole lot of wool content in here. It's mostly acrylic and cotton if I remember correctly. So it's very light, which I think will make it still very wearable for me in the summer. I will probably have to layer under it, but if it's just like a really thin, light t-shirt, I could see myself wearing this on some of the cooler summer days. So that's my darling vest by Crochet Knit. I have so many acquisitions to share with you. I almost considered making it like a completely separate video, but I mean, like, we're here, so we might as well just do it. Where do I even start? Okay, I'm gonna start with what's close to me. So okay, so I'm not really gonna go about this in any particular order. I'm just gonna kind of show off the yarn, and I'll tell you what store I got it from during the yarn crawl. So for this first part, this is all going to be yarn that I got during the yarn crawl back in March. And then I'll just tell you what store I got it from, and like I'll tell you about the yarn, but this isn't in the order that I visited them or anything like that. So first off, from Uncommon Threads in Los Altos, I picked up some of my own Playful Day yarns. This is the same yak fingering that I used in my boyfriend's Seek sweater, but this is for myself this time. So yak fingering is a fingering weight base. It is 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, and 10% nylon. And I absolutely loved working with it last time. So this is a very similar color to my boyfriend's sweater yarn, but it is slightly different. I think the gray base really comes from the yak. I think it just turns it into a very dark base, and so any dye on top of it, if it's a subtle dye, I think that's why it comes out very subtly. But this is the color Milk and Honey. I did consider getting the DK in this color Milk and Honey because it was really pretty. So the DK is like an all wool based base, and so it's a white base, so you can really see the subtleness of the dye job, but it's kind of a very light, like brown cream kind of tonal. And it shows, like I said, it kind of shows up more prominently on that white base, of course, but on the yak base, it is still pretty. I'm gonna see if I can find the leftovers of Moon Rocks so I can compare them. This is Moon Rocks, which I used for my boyfriend's Seek jumper, and then this is Milk and Honey. So you can see the on camera it doesn't look very different, like, at all. But you can see the Moon Rocks is darker. The Milk and Honey does kind of have more of a brown tone to it. So they are slightly different, but you can certainly see like that yak base and the darkness of it kind of coming through very prominently. So I bought a sweater quantity of this, and I also picked up enough of this Alpaca Haze. This is Alpaca Haze by Rowan, or Mode at Rowan, and this is I know this is alpaca and acrylic. I can't find that. Okay, so this is 58% alpaca, 22% wool, 20% polyamide. So this is a lace weight fuzzy alpaca. My bag is slipping off of my lap. So this is a lace weight fuzzy alpaca, and you can see these are a pretty good match for each other. So I'm going to hold these together for a sweater at some point. Right now, I'm thinking of the Rivendell pullover by Sari Nordland, but of course, like, we're approaching summer now, so I have plenty of time to think about what sweater I want to make with this. And this year for the yarn crawl, I really wanted to focus more so on summer yarns, because last year I bought a lot of winter fall yarns, and then I didn't even get to touch them for months until the weather turned cold again. So this time around I really wanted to focus on some more summer fibers, but I had a gift card for Uncommon Threads, and so I was like, okay, let me splurge, get a sweater quantity of something really nice. So I think these will go really well together, and I'm super excited to see how they knit up. So yeah, so that is from Uncommon Threads in Los Altos. I have something from Busy Sticks, but I have something else from Busy Sticks. Got yarn coming up to my ears, man. Okay. Okay. So at Busy Sticks, they had some yarn crawl exclusive colorways, and I'm so glad I finally get to show this to you because I've been wanting to use these stitch markers since I bought them. So this was a collaboration with Cozy Collagen Fiber Company and Pearlsmith, who is a maker of stitch markers using freshwater pearls and other beads. So this Cozy Collagen Fiber Company, this is a single sock yarn skein. This is in the colorway Abalone on their silk sock base, which is beautiful. 80% superwash merino, 20% silk, 400 yards a pop. So, so, so beautiful. This abalone color is so pretty. I couldn't say no. I actually went to Busy Sticks twice because they were my final stamp for my bingo card. Except I came there to shop. I bought this and then I realized that I forgot my bingo card at home. So I had to make a return trip just to get my bingo card stamped. So stupid. And then you can see that the Pearlsmith stitch markers are made to match the color of the yarn. So pretty. So it's 4 closed stitch markers and then 1 clasp style stitch marker, but are there any actual pearls in this one? Oh, there's 1 pearl. So there's 1 pearl in this one, and then it looks like one of them is sea glass. But I really love the Pearlsmith stitch markers. I picked them up last year as well. And Busy Sticks also carries them as part of their normal shop stock now, ever since last year's yarn crawl. Probably because they did so well, but they're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Oh, tells you on the back of the card what they are. So there's a freshwater pearl, sea glass, lavender quartz. Ooh, one of these is a shell and then a ceramic bead. Which one's the shell? That's so cool. Anyway, I'm getting distracted, so ta-da! Now I can finally use these stitch markers. So at Busy Sticks, whenever there's a yarn crawl, Marcia has a little spinny wheel for like whenever you purchase something, you can spin the wheel, and if it lands on a winning spot, then you win something. I've won 3 prizes from her. And Marcia, if you're watching my podcast, thank you very much. And also, I'm sorry that I keep winning your giveaways. But last year, I won the Knitted Wit Fade Kit that I ended up using to make my Sasky sweater. And I also won a pattern book last year. This year, I won a scarf kit from Shibui Knits. And it came with 4 skeins. And it came with a pattern for this scarf. What's the scarf called? Bias scarf by, what's her name? Darcy Cameron. So it came with this pattern for the Bias scarf by Darcy Cameron, I think distributed by Shibui Knits. And then it came with 4 skeins of yarn to knit it with. And it is in like, so there were 3 of this white color and then 1 of this blue color for a contrast. And this yarn is Fern, which is 100% organic cotton. So it's all cotton. I think it's a sport weight. Yeah, it's a sport weight. So sport weight cotton for making a scarf with. You know, usually I'm not a scarf girl, and I obviously did not expect to win any prizes while I was there. So I've been kind of debating whether or not I want to make that scarf with it, or if I want to use this for like a different kind of shawl or wrap or something like that. But I do actually like the scarf, so I think I might actually knit the scarf that is included in this because it's real pretty. It's pretty chic. And I could see myself wearing something like this. Or I could knit it and always gift it to somebody who would wear it more than I would. But I think it's really cute. This feels really soft. I have not, I've seen Shibui yarn like everywhere, but I have not had the opportunity to use Shibui. So I am excited for the opportunity to work with their yarn. So, yep. That was from Busy Sticks. And then from Busy Work in Martinez, I went there one of the last yarn crawl days, and they had a trunk show there by Fiction Fiber. And she was there. She actually had to put the label on this. She was putting labels on yarn. I wanted this one. She had to like write the label and put it on for me right there because it didn't have a label yet. So it's always fun to be able to meet the dyers. I always enjoy when I'm able to have that opportunity. That was very cool. We got to talking a little bit. But this is her sock base, 100% fine merino, non-superwash sock base. And this is in the colorway Polygraph. And this is from, I think she has a couple different like color collections, but this one is called Girl Detectives. And it's so cool. As far as I understand, Fiction Fiber uses natural dyes for her yarns, which is just insane to me how you can get a color this vibrant with natural dyes. But I'm super excited about this. I'm really excited to make some socks out of this yarn and kind of have them as like statement socks for like a little pop of color. But it's this beautiful tonal and like this red orange tonal, but it is like, I cannot even express to you. I don't know if it's coming out on the camera even like to do it justice, but like this is like fluorescent red orange. It is so bright. I guess you can kind of tell like next to my rust colored sweater, but it's like this is so bright, and I was like blown away, taken aback by how beautiful this color is. So had to pick this up. And like I said, this is one of my last yarn crawl days. I just needed my stamp, but I was already coming up on like my yarn crawl budget, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get my stamp. I'm not gonna buy anything. And then, well, I had to. It's so pretty. I just had to get something. So yeah, once again, Fiction Fiber, and I'll link her in the description as well because her page is really cool. I think also during the yarn crawl she was having a fiber art exhibition there, kind of more like a gallery style exhibition, and they had like a wine event and stuff like that as well. I did not have the chance to go, but I think it'd be really fun if they did something like that in the future, to go to something like that. Those kinds of events always interest me. So yep. And then this is from Albany Yarns, I think. If I'm incorrect, I will correct myself in the description here, but I think this is from Albany Yarns in Albany. And this is, oh gosh, I think it's pronounced Araucania alga, but this is a sport weight yarn that is cotton, sea cell, and viscose. What are the percentages? So 65% organic cotton, 23% viscose from bamboo, and 12% sea cell, which was so cool. Okay, my camera overheated, but in its defense, it recorded like an hour of content like a champ. So, so I'm gonna try to remember where we left off. I think we were talking about my sea cell yarn, and I think I was just talking about how sea cell is viscose made from algae, and so I was super excited to try out this yarn, knowing about sea cell. And I thought it would be a perfect something for a summer yarn. I think it's going to be very drapey because it does have a pretty significant viscose content, including the sea cell. But this is a sport weight yarn. It feels pretty stretchy. It's very soft to the touch. So I'm excited to do something with this. I'm thinking some kind of tank top, something that would look good being like a little slinky, a little drapey. So I'm thinking something along those lines, but this is what I picked up at Albany Yarns in Albany. Yeah. It's cool. It does have a pretty like tight twist to it, almost like a ropey kind of. Oh, and I did forget to mention this is in the colored mustard seed. They did have several colorways in this that were kind of more like hand painted or like more variegated, but I really wanted something that was like a solid color, so I picked out this one, this mustard seed color, which as you can see is part of my yellow moment. This being the Illimani Sabri that I picked up for the Warriors hat. But you know, I am a big fan of yellow. I know that everybody is doing kind of like this butter yellow trend right now, but I kind of already had my butter yellow moment when I knitted my Vilma top earlier this year, or end of last year. So I'm kind of in a mustard phase. I feel like the palette of the yarn that I picked up at this yarn crawl is almost exactly the palette that I picked up at the last yarn crawl, but just like different things. If that makes any sense. But like I feel like last year, well, you know, I'll get to it when I show off some of the other yarn that I got, but I just think it's a little bit funny. So at Black Squirrel, which is I love this shop. It's just a little too far for me to make the drive with any amount of regularity, but they were also having a trunk show for the yarn crawl, and this was Casey Knits, who is based out of Florida. And this is a cotton wool fingering base, so it's 50% cotton and 50% superwash merino, and this is the colorway Sarasota Sunrise. So it's really pretty. It's this tonal lavender kind of color, and yeah, so this is a fingering weight yarn, and it's just so pretty. And it's really rare, and I mean, like, I haven't personally seen a whole lot, but I feel like it's really rare to see a cotton merino in a hand dyed, as a hand dye base. So I really wanted to try out this yarn because as much as I love working with wool and animal fibers, it is simply not feasible for me to wear that for a good portion of the year here where I live. And as cool as cotton is, I don't really enjoy working with it a whole lot, to be honest. Like, I enjoy the finished objects made from it, but I don't feel as much pleasure working with cotton and with plant fibers as I do when I'm working with wool. And so I'm really excited to try a different cotton merino option and see how this goes. But it's really pretty, and I have a couple of these, so I'm thinking of making some kind of summer t-shirt. Is kind of the direction that I'm thinking of taking this one. Yeah. And then I believe this is my last yarn crawl purchase. I think I talked about everything else that I got at the yarn crawl. So this is from Imagine It. And last year I visited the Imagine It in San Francisco, but now they have a new location that is in like Oakland, Berkeley. Or more like Oakland. It's on College Avenue, so I guess it is kind of more Berkeley than Oakland, but they have a new location there. I feel like they have more selection at their original location, but the new location still has a pretty good selection. And I picked up Earth Yarns Lana Alpaca. So fun, right? So I know everyone was having kind of like a boucle moment last year, but I don't think it's too late to hop on the boucle trend because I really wanted to knit something with boucle last year. Like, there was a Pearl Soho blanket pattern that was going around that was like a boucle blanket, and it looked so nice, but buying enough boucle yarn to make a blanket is so incredibly pricey. And even this, I was like, this is so fun and so soft, and also the salesperson there was very effective, if you know what I mean. So pretty much she convinced me to buy this, I'll be honest, but I had already had like the boucle itch for a while. So this is a super bulky weight, 50% super baby alpaca, 50% merino wool. I don't know what the hell super baby alpaca means. Does that mean it's superwash treated, but it's baby alpaca? I don't know, but it's fluffy and soft, and it is this beautiful dark green color, and I think this is very similar to the color that I got from Earth Yarns last year in the yarn crawl, except in their fingering base. But this color is called Travertine, and it is a very, very rich deep forest green, and I have 4 of these skeins, and my intent for these is to knit the Sheep Farm vest by Quishner Knit, which is kind of like a fuzzy, like homeware-ish kind of vest, and it's so cute, and it's very like cottagecore feeling, so I think it'd be really cute in a dark green like this. But yeah, so fun, so soft. But yeah, kind of like I was saying, I don't know if I have a picture of my haul from last year, but it's kind of funny to see like what I came back with this year. and I'm pretty sure it's like the exact same color palette, except the things that I bought are like different materials than what I bought last year. But I'm pretty sure last year I also bought something in lavender. Yes, I did. Last year I bought, oh, this is driving me crazy. It was someone from up in Sonoma, and I made the boho cami out of it. But I forget what the yarn was called. I don't think I kept the label from that one back then. But I made the boho cami out of it. It was a lavender base, and it looked exactly like this. And then I bought the Earth Yarns fingering that I mentioned in Grape Leaf, which is very similar to this Earth Yarns travertine. And then I bought the Playful Day Yarns yak, but that was for my boyfriend's sweater, but it was almost this exact same color. And I bought something in yellow too, I'm sure I did, but what was it? The last year's yarn crawl. I know I bought something in yellow. Unless it was just the color of my couch that I took the picture on. Which, by the way, yes, in case you were not aware from my other videos, I do have an extremely yellow couch. So this is just kind of a inside peek into what my color preferences are. But I swear I bought something yellow last year too. Either way, it's just really funny because when I came home, I looked at my haul and I was like, I'm pretty sure I bought this exact same color palette last year. So, and I've already made jokes about how everything I make is purple. But it's kind of like, I do genuinely kind of feel like everything I make is either purple, green, or yellow. So I think maybe I should try and throw some variety into the mix next time I go yarn shopping. Oh, I remember. Okay, so in my defense, I didn't buy it, but I won the Knitted Wit kit, and it was yellow like this. So that's okay. It was driving me nuts. I was like, I knew I came back with something that was yellow. So it wasn't my fault. I didn't buy that one, but I did come home with it. So it's just a little funny. So those are all my purchases from the Bay Area yarn crawl this year, which is so much and should really last me like forever, honestly, except I'm never satisfied and I do have other acquisitions to share with you. So this yarn was gifted to me by my boyfriend. He recently went on tour with his performance group San Jose Taiko, and as part of their trip, part of their planned tour, they were in Toronto, Canada, or Toronto, I guess. But he's kind of made it a tradition at this point that whenever he goes somewhere, he looks for a yarn store so that he can and brings back yarn for me. So when he was in Toronto, he found the Good Grief yarn store, and I've seen a couple different Canadian podcasters talk about Good Grief, but it is a store that is also a dye studio, so they do dye their own yarn. And he bought me 2 skeins of this yarn. This is their pillow base. It's 100% superwash merino, and it's 182 yards per 100 grams. So I'm not actually sure what weight that puts this as. So I think I am going to have to do a little digging like on their website and see what they categorize their pillow base as. Or if you happen to know, please let me know in the comments and save me some Googling. But this is in the colorway Slow Burn. It's really beautiful. It's like a strawberry smoothie, but it has like little specks of this orange color in there too. And then like this dark mauve and kind of like mixed berry look to it. It's so cute, and the yarn is so soft and squishy. This is most certainly worsted or above. I might even be a chunky weight, but I would have to do some research and figure out what this actually is classified as. But he gifted these to me. He brought these back, and I'm so happy. But he bought these with the intent for me to make a pair of mitts for myself, or a pair of mittens for myself. And I think that'll be perfect, especially if we're going to Korea this winter, just to keep my hands toasty warm. So that's these from Good Grief Dye Studio. He sent me pictures of the inside of the shop as well, and they have like a huge shop dog. He said that the dog takes up like half the store. But yeah, so it was very cute. I'm very lucky to, I'm very lucky that he thinks of me on his trips and tries to buy souvenir yarn for me, because that's certainly what I do whenever I go somewhere, is I try and find a place to get some souvenir yarn. So these definitely souvenir yarn, but I think that I could probably whip out a pair of mitts with those pretty quickly towards the end of the year, just so that I have time to wear them if we do go to Korea. And then finally, my last acquisition, I mentioned that I recently took a work trip up to Washington State. Even though I flew into SeaTac, I was more so up in like the Everett, Mukilteo area. And so a little bit south of that, there is a yarn store in Linwood called Stranded by the Sea. And I was there on a Tuesday, and their knit nights are on Tuesday nights. And so I actually stuck around for knit night for a little bit, just until I got hungry and had to find some place to eat. So I did hang out there and knit a little bit. So if you were there with me on knit night, welcome to my channel. But yeah, so when I was there, it was a beautiful shop, huge store too, with a lot of selection, but a lot of their yarn is dyed in-house. And so I love finding yarn stores that are also dye studios, and I love buying the yarn that is dyed by the owner whenever I can. And so I picked up this fade kit, and this is 5 10-gram micro skeins, and this is on her Selkie sock base, which is 55% superwash blue face Leicester, or BFL, also known as BFL, and 45% silk. And it's a really beautiful fade. Like the knitted weight one that I used, I'm very fond of the colors that I got. As we just discussed, I'm a big yellow fan. But I think if I were to choose a fade kit, this is more so like what I would have chosen for myself. So beautiful. Such beautiful colors. And like, this shop was so cool. They had an entire wall that was just hand-dyed yarn in any possible color that you can think of. And I think Sorella is the one that does this whenever she has a booth at a yarn event. But it was the same kind of thing where they were like mini skeins in literally any color, and you could create your own like palette out of the mini skeins. So they had a wall like that. They had their hand dye yarn in so many different bases, and they were actually gearing up and stocking up for their own local yarn crawl. I think it was the Puget Sound Local Yarn Store Tour or something like that is what they were actually calling it. So I got this yarn, and I also did get a tote bag for the Puget Sound Local Yarn Store tour, even though I didn't actually participate in the tour, because when I was checking out, they were giving me pamphlets and things, and they're like, oh, you know, come back next week for the yarn crawl, and I'm like, oh, I'm here on a work trip, I'm just visiting. So but I bought a tote bag anyway, because it's actually really nice. It's a really nice tote bag. So I bought the tote bag, and I bought this yarn as my souvenir, and I'm super excited to do something with this. I think similar to my Sasky sweater, I think I'm going to use this as the yoke for a colorwork sweater. But knowing how much yarn I had left over after using up my fade kit for Sasky, I think I'm going to try and find a pattern that has a deeper colorwork section, because I definitely had a ton left over, and I kind of want to use up all of this. So I think I want to try and find a pattern that really would use up all of that and have more color work than just like a shallow yoke. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. So this was such a long episode. This episode was so long that my camera died. So Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know I had so much to share, but hopefully you got a lot of knitting done. But thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today, and thank you so much for spending time with me, listening to all that I had to say about my knitting, about the yarn that I've picked up, and all of these exciting things that are going on. Hopefully it won't be as long until my next podcast episode, because certainly I will be knitting like a mad woman. I have so much to play with, as you can see, and I can't wait to share with you all what I get up to next. If you like what I'm doing here, please take a moment and leave a like on this video, and also subscribe while you're at it. I think I might have done those in the wrong order, so please leave a like on this video and also subscribe while you're at it to see more content. And leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you're working on right now in this kind of transitional season as we get ready for summer. Are you still carrying over your winter knits, or are you full ready for the summer blast? So love to hear what you're up to. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care and I'll see you soon. Bye.